Hello everyone, welcome to the year-end edition of Influencer Marketing. We're going to talk about 7 trends that Forbes put out there that they believe will be the new normal for influencer marketing in 2018. Hello everyone, I'm Mark Fidelman. Joining me is Gil A. Y'all, CEO of Hyper. Gil, we're going to jump right into this. Forbes writes an article, which you and I have read, talked about, haven't shared our opinions about yet, but 7 influencer marketing trends to watch out for in 2018. And what's your kind of your early read on this article?
I think a lot of it's fairly obvious. They're on track that influencer marketing is going to continue to get bigger. But it's also kind of self-serving. Okay, they want to people who read it to understand that they need an agency to help them do the work.
Yeah, I mean, and guess what? The person writing it works for an agency. But, you know, you can't say, I do the same thing. You can't say it's an automatic disqualifier. But let's kind of go through these things, and I want to hear your opinion on them. So the first one, marketers will continue to become more strategic in deploying influencer marketing programs. I mean, this is Captain Obvious to me. What about you?
Yeah, you know, but the flip of it is marketers will also continue to behave like idiots and spend their money without thinking too much. So, yes, more and more marketers are getting more sophisticated and smarter, and more people are just wasting money, picking the wrong influencers, not doing the research, not measuring results, being excited by these vanity metrics, and that's going to keep happening as well.
I think it's these people that think that influencer marketing is kind of like PR, where they think, you know, internally at these larger companies, they think they can do it themselves, and they just throw stuff up against the wall, find an influencer that's got a lot of followers, and then they hire them. Unfortunately, I still think that's the case, and hopefully they do become more strategic, because those kind of campaigns are giving all of us a bad name. So let's go to number 2. A rise in cord cutting plus a drop in TV viewing means an uptick in opportunities for influencers, and they go on to say that this is kind of a multi-year trend and that more influencer marketing will take place as a result. I don't think I agree with this. I mean, just because you're not watching as much TV, you could be watching Netflix and other things that have some of that same TV programming just on another channel. I don't see how this really impacts influencer marketing to me.
Well, I think you might be seeing less advertising on some of these channels like Netflix and others, so there's less opportunity to advertise the way that you used to advertise, but when you do advertise, you get much better data and information about how much of the ad was seen, did people click, did they do it? So I don't think necessarily we're going to see more influencer marketing because people don't have a TV anymore. What I do think is that with the younger generations, they aren't watching TV now anyways. So cord cutting or not cord cutting, those are the people who really are easy to reach through influencers. Those are the ones where most of the money is going to. And those guys will continue to flourish, but I don't really see the connection to cord cutting that much.
Yeah, either do I, really. I don't really understand why cutting the cord would mean more influencer marketing. There are, like you said, they're already on these digital channels. There already is, and a lot of them will take content that it's on TV and put them on digital anyway. So, you know, for me, it's more of an overlap or less overlap going forward. But let's go to number 3. Influencer content will continue to become more desirable and pervasive. Again, this is kind of a prediction that I was up in the air about. I do think it'll become more desirable, but it comes with a big asterisk for me. It's like desirable, but you got to do it well. And I'd say more than half the influencer campaigns that are run aren't done well, and they're not done correctly. And hence, we're hearing a lot of pushback about influencer marketing. At least I am.
Yeah, and also what happens if the bigger influencer marketing becomes, the less of a novelty it is. So if you see 5 posts and 2 of them are promoted, or sponsored, you're not going to be as excited about it. So yes, they'll be desirable so long as they can prove that they perform. So it's going to be influencers that are known for performing well are going to be super desirable. Influencers that show signs that they'll perform well are going to be super desirable. And most influencers which will not perform well will become undesirable, and rightfully so. And that's what people like you and tools like ours are going to help brands identify it. But I think most of the influencers will become a commodity and be easily replaceable. And the content may be desirable, but the people will be replaceable.
Yeah, and they do bring up a good point, I have to say, that a 30-second TV commercial probably costs $350,000 to produce, whereas you hire an influencer, they're creating the content for you. A lot of times it's more authentic. It engages people a lot more than the television commercial will, and you're not boxed into that 30-second format. So from that perspective, I do agree it should become more desirable and more pervasive. The problem is the decision makers in a lot of these companies still come from that old school of let's just throw it on TV and radio and see what happens.
And they're still there for a while.
Yeah, and they're still going to be there for a while. You're exactly right. So let's go to number 4. We'll see growth in the use of paid media to gain extra engagement. So absolutely, for sure. I mean, content that's resonating with the influencer's audience, you should use paid media to gain extra engagements. You should be able to spread that message out, especially if it's proven. That's the beauty of influencer marketing online and digital, is that you're able to see these things in real time and make quick decisions. With TV, it's like, you know, you've already paid for your spots. You can't amplify those spots any more than they are unless you put them on additional channels, I guess. But then that's a whole negotiation. It's not nimble. It's not quick. So, Gil, what are your thoughts on that?
If you're not doing it today, you're doing it wrong. I mean, at the end of the day, you're activating a bunch of influencers. Some of them are performing better than others. Take the content that's performing well and reuse it, amplify it, share it on social networks, pay to promote it, because creating new content is always going to be more expensive and more risky than using content that already works.
Okay, let's go to number 5. Experimental marketing will play a larger role in the mix. We've been doing this for years. We've shown a couple of these experimental influencer campaigns on this show, Gil. The last one, I think, was a Star Wars Casey Neistat kind of influencer engagement video. I do agree. I think the more experimental you are, the higher the results, just because of the fact that the influencer is engaging people in a city or a kind of a circumstance that's more human, more relevant, and more authentic. What are your thoughts?
I think it could be really effective. I think there's also a question of how abundant it becomes. There's novelty to that Star Wars thing. At some point, you always have to elevate it. Okay, so we've seen the Star Wars thing. What's he going to do next year? So it becomes more and more challenging to repeat. I mean, what are you going to do? You know, Kim Kardashian already did a sex tape. What's the next starlet going to do? And it's the same way with the content. How do you make content that is more exciting and more enriching with this experiential type of advertising? And I think big brands and brands like Starbucks that are willing to take a risk and do really well there. For a lot of other brands, it's not going to be a good fit.
Yeah, and we're not recommending, by the way, doing a sex tape with influencers, but just throwing that out there.
Well, if the option is there, talk to me. We'll think about it.
Depending on what you represent, I guess. All right, so number 6, operating within Instagram's ever-changing algorithm will continue to pose challenges. We know the playbook here, don't we, Gil? It will be Facebook-like. They've already kind of restricted who sees what. You still can't link out of it unless you're paying for ads. I'd be very cautious. If you're doing influencer marketing on Instagram, it's still very effective, but there's a lot of games that are being played by influencers, not just in getting likes, but getting comments. You really have to dig in and see which influencers have that high engagement, are getting those click-throughs, and there is a little trick, a bit.ly trick, if they're using a bit.ly link, to see how much engagement they're getting. But be extra cautious with Instagram, and it will pose some challenges as they restrict it more and more in 2018.
I think in one end it will pose all the challenges that you mentioned. On the other end, there'll be a very clear way to pay to play. And if you're willing to put money behind media buys, then you'll do really well on Instagram. It's going to be challenging to get real reach, real engagement if you don't do it.
Yeah, I mean, you still got to use influencer marketing on Instagram. I'd just be careful about what you pay for it and who you're working with. All right, the last and final one: influencer agencies will get a seat at the table. We've been asking for one for a long time, but I still think this is kind of a pipe dream for 2018. I don't know if they'll get a seat at the table. That means there's going to be an executive with the title of influencer marketer. I don't see it. I think the chief marketing officer is still going to have it under their purview. I do think it's important, but I don't think it's at the strategy level of the organization, at least in terms of marketing. What are your thoughts?
I think in specific niches you might see it, like beauty and fashion. You might see that it plays a really meaningful role. But yeah, I agree with you. It's not going to be mainstream. It's not going to be every single brand yet. It's definitely moved over the years. I mean, there isn't a single agency that we speak to that doesn't have an influencer marketing department. 2 years ago, none of them had any. So we're moving in that direction, but I think it's early to say 2018 is the year of the CIO influencer replacing the CIO information guy.
With that, Gil, where can people find you and your organization?
I am Gil at hyperbrands.com, www.hyperbrands.com.
All right, Gil, thanks again. Talk to you soon. Bye.